Welcome to our next session, guiding developers to implement business applications on SAP BTP. My name is Raphael Schmitz. I'm architect in the BTP engineering organization, and I had the pleasure to prepare developer guidance for you. And I'm happy to talk about the SAP BTP Developers Guide, an asset that we just released today for you at TechEd 2023. And I will have a roughly 10 to 15 minutes presentation, and afterwards there will be Q&A for all your questions and answers, in the best case also technical questions. So, as you already know, BTP is the foundation for SAP and our ecosystem, and we at SAP, we are implementing standard business applications on this platform across cloud ERP, human capital management, spend management and business networks, as well as customer relationship management. But at the same point in time, we are offering platform technologies for app development, automation, integration, data analytics, as well as AI. So the idea is that basically we have a suite of multiple business application modules that are implemented by SAP, but also by customers and partners. And we need to have a similar developer guidance to achieve a common suite experience with common cloud and enterprise qualities. In fact, we are developing business applications internally at SAP similar to the SAP BTP Developers Guide. We call it internally Golden Path, and also have an experience for the last couple of years to successfully productize those applications and bring it to the market. Technically, we observe that since years, the architecture is evolving from classical three-tier architectures to more distributed cloud architectures, consisting of multiple self-contained microservices. And of course, modern architecture delivers great advantages, such as continuous delivery, better resilience, better cloud qualities, better scalability. But at the same time, it also increases complexity. And we need to simplify the job of our developers in the end, that the cognitive overload is also reduced and the work of the developers is simplified. So with BTP and the programming models, CAP on the one hand side and ABAP Cloud on the other hand side, we want to lower the number of technical lines of code that implements the actual business logic. So we need to abstract technical debt and make it easy for developers to achieve their business goal at hand. And for this reason, in our new SAP BTP Developers Guide, we are outlining how to implement modern business applications using predefined technology choices like HANA Cloud, Fiori, as well as runtimes like Cloud Foundry and Kyma, as well as the BTP ABAP environment. So what are the objectives of the SAP BTP Developers Guide? It actually consists out of three pillars. On the one hand side, on the first pillar, there is what? So business application development instructions on developer level, including, and that's actually my favorite asset, the related hands-on experience, including some code examples that tells you, for instance, how to implement the audit log into your CAP application, just to give one example. The second pillar is how, the related software development and delivery processes. And finally, the reasoning why, well, in the end to achieve cloud qualities, but also enterprise qualities as we are implementing business applications for enterprises. The building blocks of the SAP BTP Developers Guide are structured in the following way. So what you can see on the left-hand side are two architecture styles. Either you can implement your business application in CAP or in ABAP Cloud. Both architecture styles are quite similar. On the UI level, they are using SAP UI5 and Fiori elements. Also, web components could be embedded. Those user interfaces are consuming logic and data using OData as an interface protocol, or INA for the analytical purpose. And in the logic layer, as mentioned, there is either Cloud Application Programming CAP or ABAP Cloud for ABAP-based implementations. And within the logic layer, some logic artifacts can be generated using CDS. That stands for Core Data Services, and it helps you to generate also some logic and implementation building blocks. For the CAP architecture style, this can run on Cloud Foundry as well as Schema. And for ABAP Cloud development artifacts, those can run on SAP BTP ABAP environment. And in both cases, the database is HANA Cloud for relational data, which is consumed via SQL. Of course, now, I mean, you can imagine that in a distributed cloud architecture, such a business module might be consisting of one or multiple self-contained microservices. And overall, the idea is that still all the different business modules coexist in an overall suite. So in order to achieve enterprise and suite qualities, the idea is that we integrate additional BTP services, and I can give you a couple of examples. For instance, SAP Workzone as a central entry point where all the business modules are attached to, or underneath at the data layer, the SAP Data Sphere where data is combined across applications in a way that you can achieve cross-application analytics or AI scenarios. But there are additional application services that you can see on the right-hand side that are integrated in order to achieve enterprise qualities. For instance, identity authentication for single sign-on, identity provisioning to distribute user credentials over a landscape, or audit log for the logging or audit logging purpose, among others. So you can see that you find on BTP all the ingredients and building blocks and services that you need to implement enterprise-grade applications. Okay, so here you can find a categorized list of all scoped services that make up the SAP BTP Developers Guide. And also in the technology cheat sheet that you can find in the respective guidance, you will find additional explanations on what enterprise and suite qualities are achieved. Additionally, at the right bottom corner, you will find an overview on the development and delivery tools, which include, for instance, Business Application Studio, that is also now being part of the SAP Pro Code offering. Also, SAP Continuous Integration and Delivery needs to be highlighted here. The BTP Cockpit, where you can find all the runtime deployments and building blocks which are deployed on BTP, as well as the Business Accelerator Hub with content and interface descriptions helping you with the integration of other SAP standard applications. The SAP Build Code offering was announced this morning in the executive keynote, and this is really the Kickstarter to implement SAP BTP Developers Guide compliant business applications. It contains all the necessary tools, but also services that you need to successfully build and deploy in a business application on SAP BTP. It is especially focusing on CAP with Fiori on HANA Cloud, deployed at the moment on Cloud Foundry. Schema is coming soon. But also entitles additional application services like the event broker, the audit log, the destination service to integrate SAP applications, including Cloud ERP, as well as things like the alert notification service. Overall, the SAP BTP Developers Guide is part of an umbrella framework, which is called the SAP BTP Guidance Framework. And the guidance framework summarizes multiple knowledge and best practice assets for the personas architects, developers, and administrators. Obviously, the developers guide belongs to the guidance for developers category and is also linked there. Where can you find all the assets? Well, you can find it on help.sap.com, where all the great documentations are also outlined. There is a QR code. Have a look at this. And so this is for us also the starting point. It will be continuously enhanced as also the technologies are evolving. And please especially consider the related hands-on tutorials that will help you improve your BTP development skills quite well. There are additional learning offerings. So there is from the SAP Learning Organization also learning offerings for the SAP Technology Platform. You can find it on learning.sap.com/techit. And with this, we are close to the end of the presentation. Please let me know if you have additional implementation aspects that shall be covered in the BTP Developers Guide. As said, it's evolving over time. And also recently I appreciated very, very much talking to our SAP mentors that gave amazing feedback in there. Yeah, you can reach out to me at any point in time via LinkedIn. With this, thanks a lot and happy coding. We can move to the Q&A section.
Live Q&A.
All right, so there are a couple of questions. Let's see the first one. Let's look at the first one. Which are the benefits using BTP rather than an external platform as a service provider? All right, so the unique thing about BTP is that it really is focusing on enterprise-grade applications. It helps you very well in when you, for instance, have a couple of SAP applications, including the ERP, Cloud ERP, and it is basically a good choice to start as a platform with integrating existing applications. And also, BTP is abstracting complexity more. In my point of view, it is easier for developers or citizen developers or business application developers to implement those particular applications. It's actually not BTP or the hyperscaler. Usually it's a combination of both. Okay, so let's see what else do we have. Why not all the services are available on the SAP BTP trial account? Is there any plan to bring them into that offering? There is two major starting points to really get started with BTP development. The free trial is a good option to start. And in addition, there is a free tier plan model where all the services are included. So we are continuously evolving SAP trial, and for the basic tutorial, that's also working well. If you want to do the enhanced or advanced stuff, a good option is to go with free tier. So what is the added value of ABAP development in SAP BTP rather than ABAP classical on-premise application development? Well, ABAP Cloud did very well, I have to admit, in the past 2 years. They have added a couple of cloud qualities, including zero downtime maintenance as well. Also, when you combine, for instance, ABAP Cloud and existing cloud ERP solutions, it's a very good setup in order to extend the cloud ERP in a clean core approach. So there is much added in terms of cloud qualities, high availability, zero downtime maintenance. In addition, it gives you a good extensibility option. So the next one is, what are the pros and cons of CAP versus ABAP Cloud approach? Well, that's a tough one, because in the end it depends on the setting in your respective development organization. I mean, some companies back in a time during my consulting work had really well-skilled ABAP developers, and in such situations it's the best direction to go with ABAP Cloud, especially when it's really, really close to ERP-based processes. But also CAP, I mean, there is Node.js, Java, and even TypeScript support. So CAP is a really valid option for young developers as well that are already skilled from university in Java coding, for instance. So there is not really one or the other. Both architecture styles have definitely their advantages. The next question would be, what is the added value of ABAP development in SAP BTP rather than the on-premise one? I think that was answered in the question before. Is there still a good reason to continue with tools like Mendix? As you know, we have a good pro-code, low-code strategy. There is build apps, but also now build code. And I personally would be in favor of looking at build code. And even this is probably converging in that sense that you generate, especially nowadays with AI, that you generate more and more content or coding artifacts with low-code tools, but still you want to implement certain functions in particular. So there is not actually the need of that Mendix when you see the current low-code and pro-code options that are available. And then we can look at the next one. Can BTP be used as an ABAP development environment for ECC in a phased transition path to S4? Yes, so ABAP Cloud and running on the SAP BTP ABAP environment is basically a good choice for a clean core approach when you're especially looking, like in the question said, looking for ABAP development. And there could be also a clean core approach and the phased transition path to S4. Yes, that's definitely a good choice. How to use BAPI in SAP BTP ABAP environment? Yeah, that's so there are like in the R3 and back in the times in the R3 or ERP on-premise times, there were a couple of interfaces, BAPIs functions that could be consumed. And ABAP Cloud now gives you the option really to consume those and access those and make this available to your extension application. This is definitely something where we maybe can also point out the respective resources on help.sap.com. Okay, let me see what else are there. There's so many good questions actually. Okay, what's the user cost for SAP BTP as compared to SAP earlier license model? So we want to outline also the cloud qualities of applications that are running on BTP. And of course, there are cloud qualities like scalability, elasticity, high availability, zero downtime maintenance, and all this stuff. But also important is like cost efficiency. What is an application costing? And that's also something where I'm working on right now to make this more transparent. And this might be one of the topics which we evolve in the BTP Developers Guide and make this available to you. How much JavaScript knowledge will one need in SAP BTP? So from my experience, it's rather easy to actually learn JavaScript or more specifically Node.js. You can also, as a beginner, succeed quite well. So my proposal here would be just to try the tutorials out. The hands-on tutorial for CAP, it's called Incident Management, which can be or which is actually implemented in Node.js. So that's definitely something that everybody could do. If you have 4 hours of time, take the hands-on tutorial, try it out, and yeah, it's a it's a very good building block tutorial. Can you develop on-prem ABAP development in SAP BTP? So the syntax of ABAP Cloud on the ABAP environment on BTP is quite similar. I mean, there is a limited scope of interfaces and there is a certain scope of development artifacts, but still, I mean, the syntax is the same. So you can, with the existing ABAP skills, develop ABAP Cloud, and that's one part of the developer position. Okay, so well, multiple questions still left. What is SAP doing to provide clarity around the lifespan of BTP service offering? As customers build solution, we need to understand how long services will be supported, having to refactor often. So of course, I mean, investment protection is quite important to us. And this is definitely a topic that only in the worst case services should be taken from the market. So in the end, there are of course ongoing announcements in case this is happening, but in general we're trying to make sure, especially when we have this in the developers guide, that all the services which are part of the developers guide are protected in that sense that customers and partners can build on top of this. Does Joule support ABAP Cloud programming? That's a good one. I'm pretty sure, I think I remember talking to one colleague that there is something on its way. let's wait for it. Okay. So, how open is SAP with regards to building apps using open backend frameworks other than CAP? Let's say Nest.js. So in the end, CAP is usually a project written in Java, Node.js, and even TypeScript. And in theory, or not actually, in practice, it's also open to additional JavaScript frameworks. In fact, it's also actually, CAP is just recently made open source, so you can also contribute to the CAP programming model overall as such, and there is no reason why you could not combine it with other JavaScript code in there. How to kickstart learning BTP who doesn't know any fundamentals? So the best starting point is really to look at the hands-on tutorials for both ABAP Cloud and CAP. And also a good source is SAP Learning. There are even certifications on BTP development where there is, for instance, a CAP certification or ABAP Cloud certification. And you can go there and learn all the fundamentals that you need to actually productively work as a business application developer on BTP. Can BTP be used as an ABAP development environment for ECC? And that's already done. That can be eliminated. And what benefits can CAP or RAP in BTP bring with the integration on-premise with the S/4 system? So the question is, are there benefits when you implement the business application with CAP and RAP, especially when looking at the on-prem system? So those hybrid architectures are also well supported. There are additional services like the destination service that can be used to connect also to the on-premise system, and even more with the interface documentation on the Business Acceleration Hub. That's a very good asset in order to integrate with all the on-premise systems. There are actually multiple integration technologies that can be used for especially on-premise integrations, and maybe it does make sense to also look at the integration section, which is outlined in the technology cheat sheet in the BTP Developers Guide in order to achieve this. So, what else? There are interesting questions there. Here. Microservices and core data services within S/4HANA. How do you see this split between the worlds, the BTP and the classical backend in the ERP sense? So, I mean, the Cloud ERP is also evolving in that sense that the Cloud ERP also, meanwhile, has very well cloud qualities achieved. And in addition, as we saw this in the big picture diagram with all the LOB solutions, be it customer experience, for instance, there are multiple LOB modules attached to the Cloud ERP, well integrating with those. I mean, the Cloud ERP is an amazing piece of technology that grew over the last decades. This is, in a way, enhanced that it also achieves the cloud qualities, but it still is a classical architecture, a 3-tier architecture. Still, in terms of the question, so the easiest way is to keep the core clean, to follow the clean core strategy, and then enhance additional LOB or customer individual solutions on BTP using either CAP or RAP, or in that terms ABAP Cloud, and with this achieve modern cloudified, modernized cloud architectures in that sense. But the overall landscape, including Cloud ERP, the SAP standard business applications from the LOBs, as well as the customer and partner applications, overall have a common enterprise experience with, for instance, a work zone to have a central entry point. Okay, so one last question. Which programming model is state-of-the-art at SAP, CAP or RAP for cloud? That one is really good. I mean, it cannot be answered in that sense. We have many CUP Java implementations, also many CUP Node.js implementations. But on the other hand side, a couple of classical 3-tier architected ABAP-based systems are going for ABAP Cloud. And for that reason, I would say it's a really good time for ABAP Cloud at the moment and to become an ABAP developer. But at the same point in time, if you have good resources or skills in Node.js and Java, you can easily go with ABAP and implement your with CUP and implement your CUP-based application within probably minutes, especially with the AI, Gen AI, functionality which is out there meanwhile. Okay, so with this, we are at the end of the session. As said, you are more than welcome to reach out to me in order to get additional guidance for topics which are top of mind for your implementation projects. And with this, I wish you all the best and wish you a really good time at TechIt and happy coding.